The first Garmin Fenix generation with AMOLED displays is here. Everything you need to know about performance, tracking and features after a few weeks of using the unbiased way. Coming right up. Let's inspect. Hey, welcome to the channel. Great to meet you. I'm the TechMishka, and this here is the Garmin Fenix 8, the AMOLED edition. And thinking it through, I've never been a true Garmin fan, especially of the Fenix line because of their thickness and the weight. But now, after they've merged the Fenix and the Epix line, I thought it's a very good idea to try again the AMOLED-based version. And my experience was a lot different to what I initially expected. Therefore, this video is going to answer to a lot of questions. Which are the strengths? Which are the weaknesses? How good or bad is the AMOLED version? Battery life in reality? Basically, everything you need to know about the Fenix 8. Health tracking is the first I'd like to showcase, and I want to be clear at the start. This is the most accurate wrist HR tracker in the industry at the moment, period. Well, technically it also should be because of the price point. The pulse oximeter also should be among the top choices for a smartwatch, but among the few components that I couldn't check about accuracy because my levels are pretty flat. Sleep tracking is more interesting. I'd classify it as being somewhere between good and very good, however, not excellent yet. My remarks are about the wake-up times. If I lay in bed and read a book or play with the phone, it can still treat me as if I'm sleeping for another 20-30 minutes. Funny enough, but Oura Ring's sleep tracking is much more accurate at the moment, and for the record, I work on this review in the end of 2024. There is one more component which might be slightly off here. Stress tracking. Garmin rely on complex algorithms about calculating it, and a hardware sensor such as EDA is missing. For the record, some Google-made devices are equipped with such one. Next, I'm about to cover sports tracking from my limited standpoint of someone who is rather active but not as fit and sporty as an athlete. Here's the proof. Garmin's estimated VO2 max is at the bottom 50% for my age and gender. Some other stats are clearly better, though. If I start talking about how many and how well tracked are the sports activities, I'm going to for sure fail to impress, because the amount of athletes using Fenix are the best proof that it is in a league of its own. Not that the competition is sleeping, though, and I do have my remarks in regard to the effectiveness of the navigation buttons. But all in all, this watch is designed with a philosophy to provide extreme durability and be the right, maybe the best, training effectiveness companion. Something you may not notice in the first day or two, not even after having it for a week. Wear it 24/7 for at least 2 consecutive weeks, and you're going to start noticing the magic. Of course, the very same statement is relevant to some of the older Garmin products, such as the 6th and the 7th generations. Among the new functions are the scuba diving features, and there's a pressure gauge to support with more accurate input. There's of course the maps feature, which Garmin are so famous for. Don't forget that before the era of smartphones, namely Garmin was the leading brand about GPS trackers and devices. We shouldn't ignore the fluid interface, the ability to rely on third-party sensors, and the countless courses, navigation features, and customizations for each and every workout. So overall, concerning sports, I feel that there's nothing that Fenix 8 is short on. Similar is the state of the build quality. Garmin keep up with their awesome designs. The AMOLED edition comes with 3 different sizes, and for the 47 and the 43mm versions, there's a size bump for the screens, which is always nice to have. The pack remains quite plain. Honestly, doesn't make this $1,000 masterpiece stand out in any way, and sure, we don't necessarily need any of the cardboard, but given the increased price, Garmin have to give us some sort of emotion, I guess. It's the first time AMOLED makes its way to the series, but reality is that it's a revamp of the Epix series. Perhaps a well-played move, using interim product line so that Garmin makes sure that it's gonna be smooth transition. Same old charging cable and concept, same great stainless steel and titanium materials, same great quality of the strap. There are certain changes notable, such as the small screws penetrating the part which holds the lugs for the strap. The buttons are also new. They're now inductive and don't penetrate the case, which is exactly what is needed about decent waterproofing, likely an approach that other smartwatch makers are going to adopt soon or later. Really nice to see that the display is protected by the frame. It is about millimeter below, and depending on your choice of materials, it might hide between Gorilla Glass or Sapphire, the latter one coming with titanium case and $100 higher price tag. The specs are common across the three sizes, with minor deviations related to the battery size. Fact is that the 51mm edition has 3 times better battery performance as compared to the 43mm sibling. Some unconfirmed by Garmin information I managed to dig out says that capacities are 257, 425 and 759 mAh respectively, which well matches the battery life expectancy. Since we are on the topic about the specs, I should mention the multiband GPS, the NFC for payments, the ECG option, the multiple sensors, the 1.4 diameter of the display for this size, the 32 gigs inbuilt flash, the new depth sensor, the microphone, the speaker, the Bluetooth, ANT plus connectivity, Wi-Fi. I mean, the list can be really long. And all of this reports to the Garmin Connect smartphone app. But the whole thing feels like an entire health station which is packed, into the shape and the size of a smartwatch. Amazing. And in my opinion, the AMOLED integration is breath of fresh air. Probably 3 years ago, I was about to recommend to you to stay with transflective as a primary choice for a display type. But given the advancements of the AMOLED technologies, look, it's looking good. It's looking really good. And even in direct sunlight, it's not too far away from the specs of a transflective, and significantly better when it comes to low light, especially during autumn and winter time or office environment and stuff. The buttons, they feel different to the touch because of their different structure. And overall, we can say that in terms of hardware and the specs, the Fenix 8 represents the top of the line, the best in its class. And of course, we know that we're here in order to test everything, so to me the top priority would be the overall user experience. So we keep on testing. If you're concerned about the battery life, it's only reasonable in case you desire the smallest 43mm edition and plan to use the always-on mode. 3 to 4 days in between the charges is the expected worst-case scenario. 47mm with always-on display and my regular kind of use with all the tracked features on lasts between 7 and 9 days. Without AOD, it's gonna be at least twice longer. I noticed that with SpO2 tracking, the battery life gets shorter by 10 to 15%, so it's something you may want to use on demand or probably entirely suspend if you have another device tracking it, such as a smart ring. Recharging happens fairly quickly for a smartwatch. In my opinion, it is about time Garmin to switch to wireless charging, because this connector feels so outdated. On the other hand, it continues to be the best connectivity option. Just plug it to the PC and you have access to all the storage. 32 gigabytes, which is more than enough for storing different types of goodies. Wireless communications are among the Fenix specialties. There's Wi-Fi support, so that the watch can quickly pull software updates, maps, apps, or whatever else you need. NFC is present too for backing the Garmin Pay feature. Bluetooth and ANT Plus are the protocols for supporting external peripherals, and you're gonna be surprised how many they are in case you're new to the Garmin family. We talk about chest-mounted HR trackers, or air quality monitors, or e-bikes, plenty of choices. I think you're about to enjoy the combination between AMOLED display and buttons, but I will be honest here, doesn't feel optimal. The interface still feels tuned towards the transflective MIP screen-based solar editions, where the buttons are much more involved. The peak brightness is not class-leading, but about enough in most cases. I have to wait for another 6 months to test it in the bright summer conditions, unless I get to travel somewhere south earlier than that. Resolution feels great, touch responsiveness is good, refresh rate fails to impress, probably 60 Hz, but animations are nowhere near smooth, which I believe Garmin are about to refine through firmware updates in the coming months. The AOD luckily uses the ambient light sensor and adapts the screen intensity depending on the light conditions. Now, the software might need some attention. Yeah, here still are the great features you may love about Garmin. Maps, details, customization options, music playback features, Spotify support, ability to install other apps, and so on. But there's a bit of chaos. If it was up to me, I'd certainly empower the users to remap the buttons the way they like, because even 4 weeks later, I'm still not as comfortable with these as I want and need. It's criminal not to utilize the left and right swiping gestures for a touch-based screen. Same about the tap and hold function. Let me show you an example. Inside the settings, there's the display features area, but the watch faces can be changed only if you press and hold the menu button and go to the corresponding option. And going through the watch face customizations makes me think that I'd happily sacrifice one of these buttons in favor of a rotating crown. Good news is that the press and the hold actions for the buttons are configurable at least. But Garmin have a long way to go when it comes to refining the little things, actionable watch faces, better presented information cards, menu grouping, and so on. Even the notification handling is not ideal, and for iOS, sadly, no way to send responses of any form. Sure, the software is functional and you can get to the sections that you need, but it feels like someone forced the team focusing on button-only navigation to design the touch-based UI and logic. The smartphone app, on the other hand, is quite the deal for just some of these tasks. If you don't enjoy tinkering in the menus of the watch itself, then you may fulfill some of the actions from the convenience of your phone's display. Really nice is the emergency information and setup. Also, the amount of information that the Fenix line can pull, analyze and present is mind-blowing. Better than any other fitness-oriented smartwatch to date, at least in my opinion. Rather customizable and rather user-friendly, but not yet ideal. Because if you need apps, then Garmin Connect is not enough and you're gonna need to install the Connect IQ. If you need ECG readings, then there's another app needed, a bit fragmented. I would expect to have everything at one single place. Makes better sense, but probably Garmin have their good reasons for keeping these separately. And yeah, this is a bit of the bitter taste I mentioned earlier. So if the app fragmentation is something that we can count as a disadvantage, let me expand the list and add the lack of actionable notifications for iOS, the lack of rotating crown, the clunky feeling user interface, the unreasonable price hike, and the even more unreasonable high prices for basic accessories such as replacement straps. The conclusion comes with rather mixed feelings, because on one side I'm super hyped about the hardware, because personally I feel this is the best-in-class hardware you can wish for. Supporting phone calls, Bluetooth relayed finally, the best-in-class GPS experience, all the sports tracking, all the health tracking features, the sensors integrated, the superb battery life. You know, everything you need from a smartwatch these days, in terms of hardware, is supported by the Garmin Fenix. But when it comes to software, neither the smartphone app nor the user interface are on par with the high 2024 standards, at least in my opinion. And the fact that Garmin have redesigned so many things with Fenix 8 as compared to Fenix 7 makes me think that there's enough of evidence and they know that there are a lot of areas for improvement, something I very much wish to see changed and revamped with some of the updates in the next few months. But even with these shortcomings, the overall feeling that you have through the watch is so good that, well, I've decided to have it as a primary smartwatch, and whenever I'm not testing any other wearables, this is gonna be the smartwatch I'm relying on. If you wonder whether you should buy one, well, emotionally, yes, right away. But based on common sense, starting price is $1,000. And that is seriously a lot. You know, for this price, you can buy yourself a new iPhone, an Android flagship, or 3 or 4 other good sports-oriented smartwatches and still have some money left. But truth is that in its class, there's currently nothing better than a Fenix line. If you already have Generation 7 or 7X, even some of the Generation 6 members, maybe you can sit back and wait for the next generation, unless you really want to jump to something which is AMOLED based. And if you're looking for something a lot more budget oriented, yet covering most of the features, I would seriously consider the TRX3 by Amazfit. Speaking of which, if there's something in particular you want me to compare between both, let me know in the comments, because I'm already working on this comparison video, which you can check on the channel if you subscribe and get notified about whenever I decide to release it. And if you enjoyed this video thus far, give it a like. Thank you very much for watching this episode. I'm Michael, the TechMishka. Would love to see you again and wish you now a fantastic day. Bye.